So I'll separate two things. So there's Trada, the company. That's 3 years old now, and I founded that company and I'm CEO. And what we focus on is what you said, we focus on helping small and medium-sized advertisers build really scalable, powerful pay-per-click, PPC, SEM, there's lots of different words for it, campaigns, so basically running ads on Google, Yahoo, and Bing. And we leverage the power of a crowd, and our crowd are more experts than they are just amateurs.
Right.
They need to be paid search certified by Google or a professional organization called Sempo. And the reason that crowd works really well is that if you think about it, the way that paid search works on Google is you think of the search terms that someone might type in that would be related to your product or service. You tell Google that, and then you put the ad that's related to what you want to say for that person, and then you bid on basically if they click on my ad, this is what I'm going to pay, hence the pay-per-click name. Getting a lot of people to think about all the things that someone might type into Google or Yahoo or Bing that might be relevant to a product or service is a great use of the wisdom of the crowds. On top of that, we ensure that these people are paid search experts. They know how to put the right prices in and how to deal with Google's technology to get the best optimization out of it, et cetera. That's where we've focused as a business. It's been an incredible journey. We're an incredibly fast-growing business now. We have almost 100 employees. Google Ventures actually made an investment in us, which I think was a great statement about the fact we're doing something new, as well as our other investor Foundry. So that's been really fun. Along the way, about 18 months ago, I realized that there was a growing number, I noticed there's a growing number of crowdsourcing companies trying all sorts of different things. And I thought we were probably all learning a lot of the same lessons. I think of the crowdsourcing industry very similar to things like the auction industry, like eBay, Yahoo auctions, Amazon auctions, or like the e-commerce industry, 10 years ago, where we all take for granted now that we go on Amazon and you've got a one-click buy and you've got the golden box and you've got if this person like this, they also like this. You could only buy books and you'd have to look really hard for them on Amazon 3 years ago. So everybody learned from each other, and I thought we could too. So I basically called a few people and said, hey, why don't we just share honestly like what's working and what's not working. And this group, which we named the Crowdsourcing, has grown dramatically in a year and a half, and we just announced that we have 200 members, and actually have 220, 115 companies, almost every single major company, and today announced that David Allen Greer, who's a very noted professor in that sort of labor and organization space.
I saw his workshop yesterday, it was excellent.
Yeah, he's really very smart. He also just became the president of the IEEE. He's actually coming on as our interim executive director to help shepherd us into a real effective industry trade group that is very proactive, very responsible. One of the things about the crowd is that really what we're doing is we're changing the nature of people's jobs. And I think there is a lot of opportunity there, and there's also a lot of responsibility that people in the industry have to do that thoughtfully and progressively. So that's what we do.
And then I've seen some of your articles that you've written, and you really do think a lot about the worker space and workers. When you look at some of the challenges that some of your members in the consortium are seeing in the wheel that you have there, what in certain industries, what are the biggest challenges? So
I think all of us, well, generally speaking, what each crowdsourcing company does is find, let's call it a workflow or a process of producing something. And that might be something that gets worked on over a long period of time, like a paid search campaign, or it might be something like producing a piece of content for your blog, or the results of an algorithm for a piece of code, or whatever the case may be. And I think what we've all learned is that you have to understand the nature of the process pretty well, and then design the software to make it easier for people to go through that process the right way than to try to sort of game their way around it. I think we've also all learned that humans are humans, and there is a lot of ways that you can incent them and that you need to incent them. I think we all take for granted working in physical workspaces that we think of ourselves sometimes primarily as motivated by how much money we make, but a lot of times, if all the research shows, it doesn't matter as much as things like, do I have a good boss? Which really means, do I have an interaction about the work that I'm doing that is a pleasant one, and that the boss manifests that.
And leads to ownership to some extent.
Ownership, reputation. Some people like to compete, some people like to collaborate. That's what I call this multi-modal motivation system. So we're all spending time building these kinds of things into our system. people generalize it as game mechanics. It's really getting smart about what makes humans happy in the work they're doing. Yeah. And then the flip side of it, which is really important, is I think workers are starting to grapple with the concept of meritocratic work, right? I get access to work, I get paid for my work based on how well I do it. A lot of people have been hiding in nooks and crannies of corporations, making good salaries for a long time. And there's a trade-off between having access to a lot of work, maybe more work than you have ever had access to, but also having a bit of a spotlight shined on you and having to build and earn and maintain reputation around the work that you do. So there's a lot of things happening all at once.
Sort of building their brand in a way.
That's right. Yeah, we we talk a lot about reputation in Trada. Trada is a very data-driven experience. Paid search, you either hit the target conversion cost or you didn't. We kind of know that, and there's really no way to hide from that. So we embrace that. We put it out in the forefront, and we let people start to learn. Try to be as transparent about it as we can, and let people learn how to manage their reputation and thus their access to work in a way that they didn't have to in a lot of senses before. So everybody's going to move a little bit, and everybody is moving a little bit, but the numbers are just growing dramatically about how big these labor markets are becoming. You can work as much or as little as you want, and you can work for lots of reasons. So a lot of people in Trada work as the equivalent of a full-time job. They can make that much money now. Other people do it because they like paid search, and they might have a great job at an agency, but they have to work on one travel campaign every day, and they want to just go do a finance campaign. They want to tinker a little bit. That's great too, as long as they maintain good quality of work. You don't have to be the highest earner to be the most respected.
I agree. When you think about your client base or your customer base, what's the profile of a repeat client today, or somebody who you find right now who come back to you repeatedly for business, away from the old traditional models of?
Sure. So a great customer for us is one that starts with Trada and then continues with Trada nonstop, because you want to run your advertising campaigns continuously. There's not a lot of discretized work. Some people do run a holiday campaign and then it's over, but most people run their ongoing operational paid search with us. I say a perfect customer for us is someone with a marketing department of one. Someone that's big enough that has committed to marketing and has someone thinking about it, but simply cannot learn all the intricacies of paid search and the AdWords interface or the Ad Center interface, and then eventually everything else, Facebook and LinkedIn and display advertising. I mean, it is incredibly complex to do online advertising these days.
For the average person.
And you can spend a lot of money and get no results, or spend a lot of time and get no results. So someone for us is someone that's kind of smart enough to know how it all works, can tell us like what is profitable as a end cost for their business, and will work a bit with the crowd to help talk about their business with them, and then stays engaged with the crowd we have customers that have been with us for 16 months. And we love those customers. They're great.
So turning to the personal, You've been doing this dual role for, like you said, quite a few months. Say something happened and you had an exit strategy at Trada, which obviously we know you love your business. What would you do if you had 3 months off?
So just a little bit of history on me to give the context to the answer. So Trada is the third venture-backed business that I've started, that I actually have that I've built myself. And the first one I built was very successful, so I've been lucky. I've had a win there, so I'm not like chomping at the bit. So this is in the early days of the internet. We were actually helping companies putting websites online measure the performance or the speed of the website from all over the world. We literally sent computers to 127 different locations in Japan and Sao Paulo, plugged them into the internet and started downloading web pages, like buying books.
That.
Yeah, I know, the irony, way ahead of our time. Yeah, we literally packed Sun servers and like shipped them with FedEx and called people and said, plug them in. But that was to try to help people understand what the experience was of their website back in the early days when, if you remember, if Amazon was slow, you would go over to Barnes & Noble. Like the speed thing really mattered. And then I built something in the enterprise software space, and then Trada. I tried in between my last company and Trada to take some time off. And I literally found myself living back in Boston and working with some friends of mine on building a company in Iceland. So rather than take time off, I ended up flying to Iceland every week, and we were building the data center business there, using all their geothermal energy as a completely renewable source of power for data centers. I don't know how to take time off. I really don't. I have helped 3 other people start companies that are now funded and up and running and doing well in the last 3 years. I think if someone locked me in a cage and said, you can't touch a computer, I would probably, finish the proverbial book that I've had in a drawer for a long time.
That's going to be great. Well, listen, it's really been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.